All right.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about, which we kind of skipped over at the beginning of
Hmm.
the weekend, is the sprint race.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I want to get your thoughts on qualifying on the weekend, the sprint race on Saturday. Do you like the sprint race format? Um,
I haven't made up my mind about it. I like. There's a part of me that really likes it, but there's another part of me that like I'm like, but it's unnecessary. So it's like first of all, they lose viewers on qualifying, but they get a lot more viewers, I think, on the race, which is okay. Because the qualifier is in the middle of a Friday when everybody's at work, so it's kind of hard to like try to tune in at the same time like you're at work. Well,
yep.
so like you have to kind of make an effort for that. And then, but then the sprint race is kind of exciting. It's kind of fun, but to me, it feels like I don't know, like the first 20 races of a race, or the first 20 laps of a race, in which like not a lot happens because not a lot has to happen. And like in like which drivers try to be more careful. And like, well, there is some passes, they're pretty safe passes. Nobody's taking a lot of risks because nobody wants to be out because otherwise you start last. So it's like it just feels like the first third of the race, and then it's kind of like there's like a red flag. I do think I like the fact that they're giving more points out this year
Yeah.
because it is a race, and it kind of feels like if it's gonna be a race where we're trying to pass somebody and only the top three get places, then what are we doing here? Like why are we all trying to do this? Like there's like 17 cars that are just like sitting there like doing nothing. Um, 8 is better. I still think it maybe should be worth a little bit more points.
I think it's
Um,
fine based on what it is, right? So the winner of the Grand Prix is 25 points, and
yeah,
getting 8 for a third of a race makes sense to me.
yeah, I guess that's
Uh,
true. I guess that's about right.
so I think that's. I know we've complained before about the point system in Formula One, and
Yep.
like you know, but I think if anything, this one does make sense based on the fact that like if you win a race, it's 25 points, and then this is a
Mhm.
third of a race, so you divide it by 3, 8 points should be fine. It still doesn't fix the fact that like I don't know why we get 25 on the main
Yeah.
on the main event. But aside from that, assuming that, that we just accept that, then I feel like the sprint race is okay.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that logic makes sense too. It's like about a third of the race, so it should be about a third of the points. And then it's literally like 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Yep,
which is
I
how it
like
should
that.
be. I should be
Yes.
like in Formula One. So it's like okay. I mean that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, I think I was fine with it. Again, it's just a little bit of action.
You know that they've already reached out to some other tracks next year to
Mhm.
host sprint races. I
Oh,
think this year there's only going to be 3,
yeah.
and next year they want to increase it to 6. So they're
Okay.
already doubling up on sprint races. I am I don't like the sprint races at all. Like, well, not that I don't like him at all. I like the fact that we're seeing cars racing,
Yeah.
and I like the fact that there's a standing start and there's like a lot of hype and emotion because it's like, oh, there's something happening.
Hmm.
But then when it ends, I'm like, there's something missing.
Hmm.
Like I'm like, I had all of this excitement and it kind of, I don't know where it went.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's
like
kind of
because now there's another race tomorrow on the same track,
yeah.
and I'm like, did I really watch like a qualifying here? No, it was a race, but it was a very short race,
Yes.
and I was hyped about it. And when it ended, I'm not excited about the result.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think yeah, that's kind of what I meant when I said like it feels like a red flag on the middle of the race, and then we just
yeah,
stopped, and then we come back tomorrow, and then we finish the race. And
yeah.
where it's
I think
kind of
the beginning of the race is fine. There's action. It's
mhm.
short. Everybody's kind of like fighting as best as they can, as being as careful as they can as well, so they don't
Yep,
take any risk. It's just the end of the sprint race. It feels like I don't know.
a
It's
little
not as
empty.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yes, like the beginning of qualifying, it's a little boring. People are getting going, and you're getting to find out, oh, who's gonna be eliminated here. Whoever
Yes.
is at first doesn't really matter. You're kind of checking like which ones are going to be at the bottom, and then on second quali, you're like it starts getting more exciting to see who's gonna get to the final shootout, and then on Q3 you get like the excitement up until the very last minute when they do the last lap to see who's gonna get pole position.
Yeah.
And when they get it, you're like, oh, that was exciting, you know? Like that was a really good, like all throughout, there was a story developing here.
There's always like a crescendo going on of like,
Yeah.
the more that it goes, like the more exciting it gets. Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like on the sprint race that we don't get that.
It's like the opposite.
Yeah. It starts really strong, and then whatever the result is, I'm almost like, I don't care about this result. Like, yeah, there's some points, but at the end of the day, there's gonna be the main event tomorrow, and that's where it counts.
Yeah, and I do think that maybe there's some merit into seeing if putting points for qualifying should be a thing as well, because I think it's a really big part and really interesting part of the weekend, because a whole lot of your setup needs to be for both, but like you need to decide, like, should your setup be more to be like fast laps, or should it be more towards like a longer race? If you give more points for qualifying, I think you find a little bit more of the mixed strategies of the lower teams trying to be a little bit faster.
I think one factor as to why also people like it is because it gives the teams less time to practice, and therefore it's not as predictable. Like, you have practice 1, practice 2, practice 3, then quali. And then here you have practice 1 and then quali right away. And then you get something like it happened in this case in the weekend for Imola, is that you have practice 1, it's raining, and then the first time that there's dry conditions, it's in the middle of qualifying. So nobody knows, like, do we even have the right setup for this?
What to do, yeah.
I mean, that is exciting, but then again, it's like, are we doing this for the excitement or
like, yeah, where does it fit into like an actual race event? Yeah, I don't know. I do kind of agree with that. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I mixed feelings about the sprint race.
I mean, I'm okay with it. Like, if they keep it, sure, but I'll be happier if they just take it out.
Yeah, I'll be okay with it. I'll be 100% okay with it. Like to me, it's not necessary at all. I mean, it doesn't add all that much to Formula One for me. It's just kind of there. Like, oh yeah, sometimes that happens, but like,
as long as it doesn't happen in all of the races, and I'm like, okay, you can keep it.
and why do you need to have it 6 instead of 3? Like, that's also, it doesn't really make sense. Like, it's just kind of there to see if like they can make it entertaining. I just don't know. I don't really think it's quite getting there.
Yeah, maybe it's the same reason. You have 23 races, a third of the races is sprint.
Yeah.
But then again, like, a third of 23 is 8. So I hope that's not the case. But 20% of the calendar needs to be a sprint. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Don't make it any more than that.
It's like everything in Formula One. It feels kind of like the point system, like where it just feels arbitrary. Like, why are we arranging it this way? Why are we doing 6? Why not 9? Why not 12? Or why not just 3? Why not keep it at that?
Yeah, like
why 3 to begin with? Yeah, like, it's just kind of an arbitrary number that they chosen, and it's like, we'll give that a try in three races, and now there's like, now it's gonna be 6. But it's not like they have an actual concept of why it should even be implemented.
Yeah, it feels like they're just doing it because, oh, it's exciting.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't care about why it's exciting. Give me the mathematical reason.
Yeah, like explain me the thesis.
Things out of thin air.
Yeah, of like why we need to have this in the sport. Like, why this adds to a race weekend as opposed to not having it. Like, what is your reasoning? I would argue that you could say, like, it's important to have four quarters in like American football, and there's a reason why there's 4 quarters. I mean, like, people get tired and stuff like that. But what is the reasoning for like doing half a day of a third of a race, and then the next day the full race, and then as a qualifying style too, where like you begin, like, I don't know. I guess it's just like a different type of racing format.
Yeah, I mean, I know that for the previous years they were like testing it to see if people liked it,
Mhm.
or like if it worked. And I'm like, yeah, it does sort of work, but like, what's the goal? Tell me what the overall goal of this testing
Yeah,
is. Like, are you trying to implement it fully? Now you increased it, but there's no explanation as to why. It's like we're gonna
yeah,
increase it, and I'm like, I just want a reasoning. Maybe if you give me a reasoning and it makes sense, I could change my mind completely.
yeah. I
I think
agree. I
I'm
agree
very
with
open
that.
minded when it comes to that. Just I just don't understand why it is the way it is right now.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they changed the qualifying format from what it was before, where it was like everybody goes individually and does one lap.
Yeah,
As opposed to now we have like this Q1, Q2, Q3 system.
yeah,
I think this system makes a lot of sense. I think I can see a lot of reasons why it's like well thought out, and why like it progressively gets more exciting. Like that's a good thing to implement in the sport. Before it used to be that like you had to wait for people to go through. And the beginning was really boring.
yeah.
And
When
even
we watched Formula One, it was so incredibly boring.
yeah, it was like you had to wait forever for one car to go around the track. Then they did the lap, and then I think they get another try after that, or was it
Yeah,
just
so I
one lap?
mean that they used to be like, hey, you have qualifying. There's an hour of qualifying, and then all the drivers can go out as many times as they want for that 1 hour and set the time that
Mm.
get them in pole position. And it's like, and the drivers are like, okay, we have an hour, and they would wait until there were like 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, and go at the very end of it
Mm-hmm.
because they were like, we're not gonna go right now when the track conditions, like the track is clean. We want to
Yeah,
go at the very last minute when the track has the most amount of grip,
exactly.
uh, and then like finally we'll be able to get the best out of the car. So like you had this period of time of like 50 minutes that you don't see any cars, and people are paying money to go like to qualifying, and then the track is empty for 50 minutes.
Exactly.
So
So
they changed it. They changed
yeah.
it to like what they're gonna do is like based on championship order, uh, you go out onto the track and you have one lap that you can go out on.
All right.
So
Mhm.
like if you were first in the championship, you would be the first one on track, and then you do your one lap, and then that's your qualifying, and then
Mm.
like you keep doing that, like, and it goes in championship order. And then again, it's like, well, I'm doing this whole thing, and then I only do one lap. So I saw my favorite driver, and then that's it. I don't get to see them again for like another hour or like
Yeah.
until tomorrow. And then the thing that would also cause is that if it rains for certain part of qualifying and
Oh
then not
yeah,
for
that
the
would
other one,
suck.
yeah, it would scramble up the entire grid, and it wouldn't feel fair. It's like,
Hmm.
well, I went out, but it fucking rained,
Yeah.
and then like that person went out and it's dry.
Yeah.
Like, is this really like fair? Like, so
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's a perfect occasion in which you should change the rules when like the racing makes more sense under different sort of rules. But they haven't really proved that yet, in my opinion, with the sprint races. That I don't think the entertainment is getting better that much. Like you said, like a lot of it is getting like like the last half of the sprint qualifying is kind of like I don't know. I was kind of like half watching it, and I was like, okay, like
okay, it ended. Like that guy
yeah, I
got
don't.
first, and I'm like, okay, now I wait for tomorrow. It doesn't end on like a climax.
Yeah, and there's no podium. And then at the end of the thing, they're like, yeah, tomorrow we'll come back and we'll score points, and that's it. It doesn't change. Whereas like a good qualifying can be like super exciting, like a good like
Yes.
Q3 at the end. Like you could be like, it could be like I'm thinking of like for example like Saudi Arabia last year, where like Verstappen was just doing the lap of his life, like really flying on the track, um, and then at the end like he crashed, and everybody was like, holy shit, like oh my god, like everybody was like, I think he just lost the championship, which I thought that was like the point where he actually lost the championship. Um, And I was like, damn, dude, if he would have completed that lap, I mean, he would have been like on top ship for the rest of the weekend. But now his psychological was fucked.
Yeah.
But it was very intense. I thought at that point of the season, like the qualifyings were getting very intense because it really depended a lot on the qualifyings to see what happened in the race. So
Yep.
so yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's our sprint race
Analysis.
analysis